Gentlemen, the show is about to start in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
He'll be fire on the mountain.
It's time for Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Built by the Barndominium Company, served by Chicken Cock Whiskey, and part of the Chief Sports Network.
Juice Wells, all the way, touchdown Gamecocks.
Pressure, and he just dives in.
Dozier, notice.
Here's J.C. Sherbert, Phil Molinax, and Jamie Bradford.
All right, greetings and good Monday morning. Welcome aboard and welcome home. Inside the Gamecocks, the show, live from the Sinorama Studios and built by the Barndo Co., the barndominiumco.com, where you can build your dream home for as low as $160 per square foot in the Carolinas, Georgia, or in Tennessee. It's served by Chicken Cock Whiskey, some of the finest bourbon out there. We cannot thank them enough for what they do for our ups and our downs, that's for sure. If you have not tried the Chicken Cock Challenge, make sure you go get you a bottle and then you can post it in our app. And we've got gifts coming here pretty soon. We've been having to work through a couple of things to get those out. But all those who purchase a bottle of Chicken Cock, if you just put the photo up there, you will be happy that you did. Can't thank you enough for supporting them as well. It is fantastic stuff. I've got plenty around my house, and I hope that you do too. JC will be here in just a quick second. We just got off of a very long team meeting this morning, so he got a little backed up and had to do something, but he'll be in just a moment. It is Phil and myself. We'll be joined by John Whittle coming up at 11:20. And then at noon today, Talkin Ball with our friend Pat DeMarco. And we've got some plays to go through with him as well from a video standpoint. He'll tell you what he saw this weekend between the hedges as Georgia takes down the Gamecocks 24-14. Up next, Phil, is Mississippi State at 7:30 under the lights. Keep an eye on the weather. There is right now just off of our coast here a little bit of a disturbance that could be forming later in the week and kind of drifting on shore. It wouldn't be like a hurricane, but it could bring potential weather not only to the coast of Carolina, but inland in the Midlands. And that would be just flat out perfect because just last week, the weather was terrible all day getting ready for the game that night. And we all know that South Carolina hopes to have about 80,000 of us inside of Williams-Brice Stadium pulling them through against the Dogs team that got whipped this weekend by LSU, but they are looking to rebound against the Gamecocks. So we'll get to all that throughout the week, but certainly today we'll react to what happened on Saturday afternoon where the Gamecocks had a 14-3 lead at halftime and just couldn't quite hang on. JC is there, but Phil, we'll start with you. Tough draw there towards the end. And Carolina kept it close, but just couldn't get over the hump.
Yeah, the game couldn't have started any better for you the way you wanted to. Start fast, score points. It was everything you were looking for. And then they get back out of locker rooms at halftime, and it's as if Georgia just woke up and said, hey, we're Georgia. So what are we doing here? And even while that was the case, still had opportunities to win this game at the end. But you're forced into being one-dimensional, and when that happens, you're going to get eat up like we saw in the last couple of drives.
Yeah, no question. JC, welcome back. Yeah, there was certainly a few key points in the ball game that went Georgia's way that obviously them kind of sew it up and get the lead, hold on to the lead, and kind of escape after being down by 11 points. I texted our little group chat during halftime, and I said, my hunch is Georgia's going to come out and score. You know, Will Muschamp and Mike Bobo are pretty elite at making adjustments at halftime, and defensively, Georgia did that. Offensively, Georgia did that as well. But what was important was if Carolina could respond, even if it wasn't with a touchdown, if even just a field goal to show, hey, look, we're not going anywhere. But they made that really difficult on them, and South Carolina made a couple of mistakes here and there. They had 11 penalties total in the game, and can't have that on the road. You're going to have a couple, there's no doubt, when you play in a big environment, but some of those penalties certainly came back to bite them. You had a couple of drop passes here and there that certainly bit them, one very important one on third down. So there were certainly points in the game where you felt like if they do what they can do here, you know, break that glass, get through it, oh, man, what could we be looking at? But it didn't happen.
Yeah, I wrote today I felt good about the game at halftime. I thought South Carolina was going to win because Georgia, to me, didn't look like Kirby's Georgia in the first half. It looked like Rick's Georgia. I don't know whether that's because they're running Bobo's offense or what they say they're running Monken's offense, but that's Bobo's offense we saw. Deep crossing patterns in the passing game. His adjustments, when he adjusts the run game almost very minutely, small, but what he'll do, he identifies – like he looked at Stone Blanton and said, well, here's what he's doing. So we're going to move the gap and give the running back an option of cutting it to this other gap. We're going to block it a certain way, and gave Stone some problems in the second half, obviously. Mike's good at that. Mike does that. He did it at Carolina. He's done it all over the place. But I also thought I was going to win the game. I was like, this feels like 2019. And even in the second half, when Georgia goes up 17-14 and Carolina's driving to potentially tie the game, I was like, well, it feels like 93. If you remember 93, those that are old enough too, Carolina was up 17-7. Georgia rallies, goes up 21-17. I think Robert Edwards was their running back then. And then Tannehill drives them down the field and they win the game at the end on one of the most famous plays in Carolina history. But, it wasn't meant to be, and it was an issue of, Georgia stepping up, and they've got a lot of players. And there were three key moments. First key moment was the mistake on the kickoff return. And Shane Beamer said it. Pete Limbo said it. Perfect kick for the perfect return setup. The kid from Georgia just made a hell of a play. So that's recruiting. Okay, that's when you have a demon like that on your special teams. That's a scholar probably, and I forgive me, I don't know who it was exactly because they didn't have it in the replay stats I looked at this morning. But whoever it is probably a 4-star athlete, highly recruited guy that's out there or a walk-on that's just a baller, busting through the coverage, you get it. That happens. I mean, that when you recruit that well, you have depth, and depth makes your special teams really good. That's the key to getting better on special teams a lot is to get depth. And so that's recruiting. Well, then there was the mistake on the hold that made it even worse. And people can talk about Sanford Stadium all they want. I tend to agree. It doesn't get as loud as some places like Auburn or Florida. But that student section end of that stadium is loud because that's the enclosed end, and it is loud. I mean, I've never understood why Carolina moved their student section out of the enclosed end zone area. But anyway, that's another discussion. So that hurt because then Georgia just starts howling at them. You go 3 and out. You have to stay somewhat conservative down there, and they did just because you don't want to turn over. And then they score again. Well, so that was mistake one. Mistake two, and Beamer made it sound like it was on Spencer, and I think it probably was. You got to when you're at their 29 or 31, that's well within Mitch Jeter's distance. You can't. You got to throw that way. You can't. I mean, it's like make a couple. If you don't see something, just chunk it through the uprights. Because they as it stood, they sacked him, and it took him out of field goal range. You have to punt and momentum for Georgia. They went on a 15-play drive after that. They missed the field goal, but that ate 6 minutes off the clock and drug your defense even more. And then the third one was obviously the Trey Knox drop. South Carolina had something going there, and then he drops that pass, and it's like momentum really shifted to the Dogs. I would say probably two guys, since it was a 10-point game in the fourth quarter, late. Gosh, I guess there's about 3 minutes left, though. Josh Simon called a big pass down to the Georgia 22, 19 yards. It was called back because Ja'Kai Moore was holding. So there's another big play, and that got wiped off the board because of a penalty. So, those were the times where it wasn't meant to be, so to speak. It sounds weird to say this in a 24-14 ball game, but I thought the play calling that Dowell Loggins did in the past game was outstanding. People want to get on him a little bit. I think most of the people that do are just folks that no matter what he does, they're going to, not like it wasn't a name higher. But, man, there were receivers running wide open. And I can assure you those receivers, it's not because Carolina's receiver like 2019 LSU and just winning one-on-ones against that bunch, against Lassiter and Starks and those guys. That scheme. And that's Spencer making the right read and a lot that goes into it. I'd argue Dowell's play calling was what allowed him to build the lead in the first half. And you're coaching on defense. I'll say this: Clayton Whittle had his best first half in a while. They were taking risks. Those risks were paying off. They were putting pressure on Carson Beck. The run defense was still leaky a little bit, but, man, Georgia wasn't gashing them, and they tightened up in the red zone. You hold that bunch to a field goal, and Georgia's got really, really, really good receivers too. And they got him a couple of times in the second half, but really, South Carolina's secondary played really well. I thought Nick and Warray being back was big for that group.
Absolutely.
Second half on defense, maybe it's just because Georgia was executing better or whatever, but it seemed like Carolina sat back a little bit and wasn't as aggressive. What do you say about TJ Sanders? Coming out party for him. I think Jamie and I were talking yesterday about finding answers. There's your answer, a D tackle. And our boy, Big Tree Babalade. I want to say this. Here's their answer at left tackle. My man did not get – all right, first start, left tackle, tough spot to play. Georgia. It's the Bulldogs. My man did not give up a sack. He did not give up a sack. Georgia was able to pressure in the second half because Muschamp started using this delayed – I call it a loop pressure. That's probably not the right term for it. But like Michael Williams, who is a very – guys, y'all want to know what Dylan Stewart's going to look like for Carolina? It's look at Michael Williams for Georgia. He's kind of a stand-up outside linebacker in type. They would loop him around on delayed pressure, and that South Carolina's guys up front had trouble picking that up the whole second half. They weren't necessarily sending the house, but they were sending some delayed stuff that really was effective for the Gamecocks. But yeah, I didn't. And look, I'm sure there's a good reason why, but I thought maybe. If I had a complaint about coaching at all in the game, it would be that, second half defensively, they kind of got away from the things that were working in the first. Maybe George blocked it. I don't know. I'd have to go look at it. But and Bobby in the chat box mentions they ran out of gas. Yeah, Carolina's defense was getting the time of possession against that group. I mean, it was crazy because it looked like after Amarius Mims went out, it like his offensive line actually got better, which is crazy. And then at the end of the game when Georgia's trying to salt it away, and credit Carolina, man, Georgia got the ball back up 24-14. I was like, it's over. I canceled my Uber ride twice for my buddy's house because Carolina kept getting the ball back. Only a 10-point game. And I finally got it there. But that's and Brock Bowers and those guys made plays to salt it away for them. And, big-time players, big-time plays in big-time games. You know, that game it was about Georgia, you know, saying, all right, well, we're the two-down defending champs. We're going to go play like champions the second half and take this game. And they did. South Carolina just did not quite have as much as they needed. The good news is, and this is really good news for everybody who's depressed today about a 10-point loss to the Bulldogs. The good news is this program is making marked progress. You compare, this game has not been close in this decade, the 20s. It's not been close. It's only been close it's only been really that competitive twice. They won this year. 17 in Athens was somewhat competitive. 16 in Columbia. The Sunday game was somewhat competitive. But look, it's just, you know, the Gamecocks came to win against a team that's blown just about everybody it's played completely out. I mean, the last time Georgia played a Power 5 opponent, they beat TCU 65-7. And not everybody's back off that team, obviously, but there's enough. Georgia's got a good young bunch, too, and they're kind of learning their way as well. Number two, look at the SEC. I mean, every team has warts. Every team has had some good moments. I mean, who would have thought Florida would have beaten Tennessee? You know, Mississippi State got spanked, you know, against LSU. You know, Alabama, my God, that's all I got to say about that. You know, Kentucky is very, you know, they've been kind of pedestrian getting through their 3 cupcakes. You know, Missouri beat Kansas State. I like this Missouri team. I think they're pretty good. But man, it's wide open. You know, South Carolina could win 11 games. They could go 3-9. I mean, it's that weird of a year. But I tend to think when there's weirdness, it gives a team like South Carolina some opportunities. So we'll see what happens.
John Whittle is due up. Is he 11:20? Is he in, Phil?
Not yet.
Okay. Is he 11:20 or 11:30 today? I had him in 11:20. Just want to make sure.
Have. I just sent him an email. I didn't put a time, so.
Okay.
It's John's in when he's in. No, I'm just. It'd probably be 11:30. I would imagine.
It's the third straight year that South Carolina has kind of gotten off to a slow start, and by the time you get to that third game, fourth game, you start to see some improvement. And they did get some answers this weekend, and there certainly are still some things that they have to work through. We all understand that, but coming home with Mississippi State at night, that's a heck of an opportunity. It's not like there's another road game to be played next week. JC, you get 4 quarters at home under the lights, and you feel like with some of the things that you did well in Athens, you can begin to build on that starting here in just a few days. So we'll certainly talk about all that. But I agree with you. I told you this yesterday. I think that after that North Carolina game, there were more questions than answers. After this game, I think there are beginning to be more answers than questions, certainly with TJ Sanders, who I've been talking about for months. And he finally showed up. Big tree. We've talked about Mario Anderson around here, and he probably needs more carries. I think Talkin Ball, you can probably count on the fact that he's going to get more snaps, if not be in the starting lineup coming up this weekend, and so on and so forth. So we'll continue to kind of dissect the ball game and look ahead to Mississippi State this week. We will also, of course, make our way around the rest of the SEC. JC just pointed out it is a crapshoot. It's as strange of a league as we've seen in a long, long time. I don't know how good it is right now. I just don't think it's that good compared to the rest of the country, but it could end up being better than we think. It's still early, so we'll get into some of that. Looking forward to having Pat DeMarco ahead as well at noon, and we'll get through some ball plays with him, some good and some bad that happened over in the Peach State on Saturday afternoon. But we'll go ahead and step aside for our first break. When we return, we'll get John Whittle here in the next few minutes. We'll get his thoughts and more. Hang tight. We're teed up by travelingcountryclub.com. It's the coolest club in the Carolinas, where you can play 45 courses between 2 states. It's about that time of the year where the leaves sure are pretty in the mountains. If you want to play some mountain golf, do it at a discount by signing up for travelingcountryclub.com. Hang tight. We'll be right back. Electric Bikes of Charleston offers the most fun you'll ever have on two wheels. Magnum, Velotric, Aventon bikes, and more, and they sell to consumers all across the state and offer outstanding warranties and service after the sale. 5 levels of pedal assist plus a throttle help you handle the southern heat better, but still get great exercise. Bikes are available all ages and sizes. ElectricBikesCharleston.com or stop into their store in Mount Pleasant. Electric Bikes of Charleston, powering Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Bikes on Charleston! Electric Bikes in Charleston! Electric Bikes in Charleston! Electric Bikes in Charleston! Bikes on Charleston!
Golfers and wannabe golfers, former Gamecock golfer Meredith Taylor is now a full-time golf instructor in the Midlands of South Carolina. In-person golf lessons are held at the Country Club of Lexington. Half-hour, hour, on course 9 or 18 holes. And if you're outside of South Carolina, Meredith conducts virtual lessons. Just send in your golf swing for analysis. Gift cards are available for in-person 1-hour lessons. Connect on Twitter at Mayor Taylor and find her online at McKellarEnterprises.org. Her email is on the website. Schedule your next lesson today with Meredith Taylor, former Gamecock golfer.
Down here in the South, we don't always see eye to eye. While our taste in college football teams, or what sauce, if any, goes best on a rack of ribs, or what to mix with our Dixie vodka might be up for debate, we can all agree there's nothing better than a Southern tailgate. And like our favorite college teams, our ingredients come from small towns and big cities. They're grown in Southern soil, are crafted by Southern hands, and proudly represent the South in our backyard and beyond. So raise a glass of Dixie Southern Vodka to celebrate being made in America and raised in the South.
All right, 11:25 here on Inside the Gamecocks, the show from the Sinorama Studios in West Columbia. Thanks to Matt Vaughn for what he does to dress Williams-Brice Stadium and pretty much everything in between up, looking so nice. If you need anything in the sign industry, it is Sinorama.com. Make sure that you are contacting Matt over there, just over the bridge from downtown Columbia. John Whittle joining us with the BigSpur.com, coming off of this weekend's 24-14 loss for the Gamecocks in Athens. John, thanks for joining us. Carolina needs a win over Mississippi State this weekend to get to 500, as we know, after the loss. But you looked up at halftime, and the whole country was wondering what in the world is going on in Athens, especially after guys like Pat McAfee and others said that they'd be sacked 20 times in the game and all these fun little, blips that they were throwing out there all over national TV. Carolina came to play.
Yeah, certainly. It was a very fun first half for the whole South Carolina community. That's for sure. You couldn't have asked for much better execution offensively. Got off the field some on third downs, and I thought they couldn't have played a much better first half. I thought it was phenomenal from top to bottom, coaching staff down to trainer and water boy.
Yeah, look, man, Shane said after the game, many of you didn't expect us to do what we did today. We did. We expected this. And he is that vibe has rubbed off on this program over the last couple of years. It's really, I mean, let's just be honest, it's the third straight year with slow starts out of the gates. I mean, they did beat Eastern Illinois, they did beat Georgia State. Neither one of those teams were as good as North Carolina to open the last couple of seasons. But, it's at least I mentioned this yesterday. JC and I were talking on the phone, and I said, I always try to be a little bit more judgmental after you get through 8, 12 quarters of football, because now you've seen it. You've had chances for freshmen to kind of get themselves figured out, guys coming off of injury that kind of start to feel their way around again. You get the chance for offenses to either click or not click. You see what you're going to do with the defense, what changes they're going to make after a game or two. New guys come in, old guys go out, and things of that nature. And I felt like they did get some answers this weekend. So now after 3 weeks of football, John, against a team you should beat in Furman, against a team you shouldn't beat in Georgia, and against a team that you felt like was kind of right where you are in North Carolina, how would you grade this team? How would you describe them? What are your thoughts on them and what type of team they are?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I mean, if you take a big picture look at it, you're a quarter of the way through the season. I mean, the sample size isn't that small anymore. And game 3 is when I kind of do what you did and try to take a step back and say, okay, where is everything right now? And I've kind of done that a little bit over the weekend, just thinking about it. And offensively, you see some really, really good, and you see some, I mean, not good. Some things that really need to improve and change if South Carolina is going to get to where it wants to go this season. And defensively, I feel like everyone's just playing okay. There's room for growth there, and certainly needs to be growth. And special teams just hasn't been phenomenal yet this year, which last year was special for South Carolina. From a special team standpoint, you're not going to be like that every year. You're not going to be blocking kicks and punts and having guys return balls for touchdowns all the time like last year. So last year was a little bit different and very unique. But I expected a little bit more out of some of those guys this year. So I think there's a lot of room for growth. I think there's been some really good, but I still think that this team isn't close to where it can be and close to its potential.
By the way, pertaining to the game against the Dogs this weekend, the line opened at 4.5. This morning it was bet up to or down to 6, and it's drifted back to 5. So there's a lot of uncertainty around both these teams that will be playing. So what we talked about TJ Sanders. That's kind of obvious. I mean, this is the best defensive lineman, I think, best game a true tackle has had since probably Javon Kinlaw has been here. I'm trying to think. I know Zach had some nice games last year, but from a stat line standpoint, John, it was pretty special. Big Tree, obviously, clearly a story. He's going to be a starter moving forward. Trevon Ball is probably going to get in there, and I would guess become a starter. Those are major storylines that we're aware of. What's another storyline maybe that we're not talking about enough that's either positively or negatively impacted?
That's a good question. I'll start kind of on the negative side, and I'll find a positive one too. But the first thing that jumps out to me is just I thought the tight ends were going to be much more impactful this year than what they've been so far. Trey Knox hasn't made the big play yet. I mean, I guess he's made a couple of plays, but he hasn't made a big play yet. That third down catch would have been a really big play the other day. Yeah, he had a nice catch against North Carolina. That was helpful down to set up an early touchdown. But I thought both he and Josh Simon were going to be out there in a bunch of 2 tight end formations, and South Carolina would be hitting those guys a bit more, a lot more. And it's been mainly 1 tight end and 3 wide receivers. Now the wide receivers have played well. It's hard to say that you need to take one of those guys off the field. but I thought you would see more of both of those guys, and I thought you'd see Josh Simon in more impactful, meaningful moments than what we've seen. He's played a lot of mop-up time, so to speak, versus like actual like meaningful game reps. So he saw most of his action against Furman or late in the game against North Carolina when that game was out of hand. So, I just thought that group would have shown more by now, and not only in a pass catching game, but I think that Knox especially has been a little bit inconsistent from a blocking standpoint too. So, but I also think from a positive standpoint, you look at Debo Williams and how well he's played at linebacker. I think that's been very welcome. The way that Jelon Kilgore has stepped up at safety and some of the things that they can do as long as they stay healthy from a defensive back standpoint, I think can certainly be good back there with him and DQ Smith and Nicky Manwari. I think O'Donnell Fortune and Marcellus Dial have done okay too, and they've had some other guys pop. So I think the secondary is back in good hands again.
I want to get JC.
I was just going to say,
go ahead.
From what we've got, the one thing, the big glaring thing that everybody's complaining about coming out of the first two games is O-line, right? And then it looked to be this weekend that pretty well could stop tinkering with the left side of this line with the way Big Tree went in and played. I mean, I think he exceeded everyone's expectations. And continuity being such a big part of that position group, how much further tinkering do you think we'll see moving forward on the right-hand side of the line? Or do you think within a game or two we've probably got it done?
Oh, I think you're probably going to see a little bit more of that. We'll see how much Ball pushes for that job, and maybe it's a start this week. I kind of don't think so, but maybe it is. There's a week's worth of practice to go. Maybe it's next week. I think going out after the bye in a couple of weeks, it may be the best opportunity to get him into the rotation. I mean, they are into a starting spot. I think he'll be in the rotation. I mean, Shane Beamer said that they did everything, or they did a lot to help out those offensive linemen and Tree in particular, in that game with what they were doing from a blocking standpoint. So Tree played awesome. Don't take anything away from him, or I'm not trying to take anything away from him. But, they helped that offensive line as much as they could. There's going to be times in games where you just can't afford to necessarily do that all the time. So if you have two true freshmen in there, that makes things a little bit challenging. But get Trevon coached up a little bit more and get him in there maybe after the bye week in a starting role, and I think you feel better about it. Now, what does that mean, Ja'Kai Moore at right tackle? That's what it would mean for me. I mean, we'll see how that it ends up playing out. But I don't know. I think Ball is ultimately going to be better than Ja'Kai Moore at guard. Whether it's enough to supplant him right now without Moore moving out to right tackle, I'm not sure. But I like the idea of Moore at tackle and Ball at guard and leaving center and that left side, as you mentioned, ready to go in the same.
I want to get JC back in on this tight end conversation real quick here too, John, because I think it's an important conversation to have. We got to know Trey Knox in the offseason. He's an outstanding person. I mean, this guy is going to be unbelievably successful in life. He's got great manners. I mean, he's got all the things you want in a human being. And quite frankly, when you look at him, you feel like he's got everything you want in a tight end, but he really hadn't blocked well this year. And then, dropping that third down catch that hit him in the chest. I mean, went through his hands and hit him in the chest on Saturday. I mean, John, I mentioned to JC, and this is going to sound really harsh, and who the hell am I to make big, bold statements like this? But if you can't block and you can't catch, you can't play. And, Josh Simon is a guy who he's been the best of the tight ends at blocking this year. I think his hands have been better than everybody else. And I am a little – I don't understand. Clearly, these guys are around these players every single day. They know 1,000 more than I do. I don't know the reasoning, but it just seems like the snap count's a little off when you look at it from a production standpoint and what Josh Simon probably brings to the table, right, JC? I mean, you've kind of mentioned some of this too.
Yeah, I wrote my notes today on thebigspur.com that, and look, Trey, everybody's going to focus on what Trey has not done well, but Trey's also done some things well. I mean, he had several catches the other day, especially early. I mean, one set up a touchdown. I mean, he's done some. It's not like he's been absent, but those two are close enough, I mean, to each other. And they always have been, to where you look at 48 snaps for Knox and 19 for Simon. And I felt terrible for Josh. Like I mentioned, we've talked about, John did a great piece on when he thought the game turned on the kickoff of the other day. And, I had two more. And I added a third when I was sitting there talking to you guys about it, because Josh, I guess it was about 3 minutes to go. It's still a 10-point game. Josh catches a pass. He gets down to the 21-yard line of Georgia, a 19-yard gain. It's called back. Ja'Kai had a holding penalty. I felt bad for him, because that's the type of thing that could have gotten him going. And, so I would like to see those snaps probably a little more even, would be my guess, if they're going to continue to do that. I mean, just for now. And I say that saying that I don't think I think Trey Knox is just going through a weird period where, things are kind of piling up on him, drop passes, missed blocks, and then the penalty. I don't think that's indicative of what kind of player he's going to be for the rest of the year. I think, there's a difference between somebody like Sidney Fugar, who I think is really struggling, right? Because, and you start to question, can he do it? Is he ready to be out there like this? Do they need to make a change? And then a guy that's just, done some out of character execution things and frankly just made some mistakes that he normally doesn't always make. So there's a big difference between the two. So it's one of those things where I don't think people need to give up on Trey Knox or start bench him or whatever. I would like to see Simon get more back, because to me those two are very close ability wise, and so you may as shoot, if one guy's not getting it done, you just better play the other guy and let the other guy rest, right? Shoot, So that's kind of my deal there. So I would like to see more. And then everybody's asking about Mario Anderson, and I guess we'll talk about that here in a second. But I tend to agree they need to give Mario the majority of the carries, especially between the 20s. I think the carry-on strength is inside the 10, 15-yard line. He sniffs the end zone really, really well. Mm-hmm. That's why he leads the team in touchdowns right now. But I think Mario, if you want to ride it back and run the ball down the field, Mario may be your only shot. So, I'm with that. You're ever on that too.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I'll add, like, snap counts evolve too over the course of a game and course of a season. Like, we saw Stone Blanton play every snap each of the first two games, and he played at least relatively well both of those games, I thought. And then Georgia, I thought he had a really poor game, and folks are wanting to see Pup Howard in there and first half, and because Stone wasn't playing well, and the coaches recognized that Stone wasn't playing all that great. And Pup Howard got 12 snaps in the second half, and some of them were good, some of them weren't good, but they got him some time out there to see what it was like, and maybe he'll see a little bit more going forward. Maybe a little wake up call for Stone, maybe a little challenge for him too. But I can see it happening with Simon and Knox, as JC alluded to. Maybe getting those snaps a little bit more split. I thought Simon, as JC noted, that catch he had, it was in a meaningful moment, an impactful moment where the game is still on the line, and he wasn't really playing those in the first two games of the season. So I feel like that's because Knox wasn't playing all that great and hasn't played all that great. So, coaches have some feel over there too. So they'll make some changes, and things will evolve over the course of time, and folks are earning reps in practice. And Shane Beamer made that point last night, is when somebody asked about the running rotation, listen, we see it, and those guys are out there competing every day, and it's wide open. So, when comments like that start to happen, it makes you think that that things can evolve a little bit.
I'm hoping that somebody tomorrow, and John, maybe it's you. Will I would like to know more about Mario Anderson, because there's more to being a running back, as there is with every position in football, but there's more to being a running back than just getting the football and running. There are other things you have to do. You've got to be able to read defenses. You've got to be able to block well. You've got to be able to know when it's time to release and get out into the flat and all these little things. And I'm not saying that he does or doesn't. I have no idea, because I'm not in practice every day, and I haven't seen this young man do what he does Monday through Friday, or I guess Sunday through Friday. But I hope somebody will maybe ask Shane, hey, look, Mario Anderson, when he gets in there, he seems to look pretty good. What does he need to do to earn more reps? I mean, I think that'd be a pretty direct question, right?
Well, he did earn a lot more reps this past game. I mean, he was the second running back out there, and I don't have the numbers in front of me right now. I think he had about 24 snaps. No, he had 16 snaps. But Shane did mention yesterday or last night in the teleconference that there were run plays for Mario called RPOs, run pass option, obviously, and Spencer went with the pass and said Spencer made good decisions in doing so. But Mario had his reps go up a little bit, and the way that game was playing out with South Carolina going to basically an entirely passing offense. I mean, that and to carry on playing most of those snaps, it goes to show me that they just trust to carry on more out there in pass protection. And if you look at some of South Carolina's best plays and best protections, DeCarrion was out there making a good block and making a critical block. So I think that's probably more so what it is. I think if you see South Carolina being able to be in position to run the football a little bit more, I do think that you're going to see some more Mario Anderson out there, which doesn't surprise me based on what little we've seen of him this year. So I think that I think that's going to continue to evolve too. And that process started. We just didn't really see some of the fruits of that this past weekend.
What about Juju? Not one snap on offense this weekend, guys. What do you do with a kid like that?
And JC mentioned the post he wrote this morning on the Big Spur. I agree with him completely. I don't think you need to look at Juju as a pecking order type of back. I think you need to look at him more as a specialty type of back, and have him in for certain plays. And maybe he's one of those guys you just have plays to get the ball to and opportunities to get the ball to and send him out there. And maybe that's not necessarily always in a traditional running back type of role either. Maybe he's split out wide a little bit. Maybe you do something with him, sending him in a sweep motion from the wide receiver position, handing him off that way. I think he's more of a gadget type of guy. Based on what we've seen of him against SEC teams. I think there are certainly times against some opponents where he can be a great running back. I think in SEC play against most SEC teams, he's kind of a specialty back. But that's my opinion.
Well, I agree with both of y'all. I read what JC wrote. I think he's exactly right. You can do a lot with a kid like that.
Yeah, I think all right, people talk about good running back coaching a lot. That seems to be a topic of conversation. It has been for a while. I don't think a lot of people really, quite frankly, understand it, because people used to trash Bobby Bentley because of his quote-unquote rotation. And almost every game during his tenure, somebody would get hurt, and so you'd have to put in Mondenson, right? I mean, nobody even gave him credit for that,
Yeah, I like Mondenson.
I know, but if Dowdle and Williams are not getting hurt, he's not putting in Mon, and But anyway, I think good running back coaches also, and if they can't do it, if they're not capable, then it's up to the OC, right? It's up to the OC to get this done. When you have a bunch of backs who are kind of equal, and they're kind of really good at different things, you got to figure out how to use them. And it's hard because you can't just say, All right, third down. Juju's coming in, and we're going to run the jet sweep because guess what?
Yeah.
The other team's got coaches too, and they're like, well, every time they bring Juju in, they run this jet sweep, and then they'll scheme up to it. But so you got and that's why you'll see from time to time a handoff to Juju at the middle. It keeps people honest. But there are ways, and you watch Georgia the last 2 years. They were very masterful at this because they had 4 backs that were all different, and they rotated them well, and they all kind of did different things, but they disguised it well enough to where the other defense can key off of that. So that's the challenge for Dowell Loggins in the running game right now, is you've got to manufacture a run game, but you also got to make sure you're not tipping your hand. There's, like I said, I saw Georgia do it. I've seen Alabama do it. I know people are like, those are 2 best teams in the country. But there's been other teams with like this situation at running back where it's just kind of 4 guys, and maybe you want to try them all. They all have strengths, but they all have weaknesses. And I think the answer there is, like I said, and Whittle agreed with me, take Juju off. You can't look at Juju as RB1, RB2, RB3. You should have done it last year. Any year. I mean, he's a different back. He's not your starter for a reason. So why would he be – in the hell would he be number 2 in a traditional sense? I think Anderson needs to get most of the carries between the 20s, or you rotate him or whatever. Don't tip it off that it's a passing down when DeCarrion's in there. And then DeCarrion's kind of your sniffer near the goal line. He's really good at getting into the end zone when he's down there. A quarterback, running back, wherever. And then I don't think there's any excuse not to have DJ Braswell at least getting a couple carries a game because, guys, the couple of times there are holes, DeCarrion goes for about 5 or 6, and if it were Braswell, the band would be playing because he's fast. And DeCarrion just doesn't have that kind of speed. So there's got to be ways you can work everybody in. I mean, it's a year where – we can sit there and talk about after the season how inexcusable the situation is at running back. There's a lot of reasons why that's the case. It's not all NIL. It's not all coaching. It's a mix. But right now,
let me ask you this. Do y'all think
right now you got to make the best of what you got? Yeah.
With the injury to Juice, Amarian is coming back from injury. I guess we'll find out tomorrow, but expect to see him on Saturday night. You think there's a chance? They've been pretty creative over the years of taking guys and saying, hey, look, you can really help us here. I mean, look what Doty's doing. There's a chance that I'm not saying they move Juju to wide receiver, but they play him in a role like that where he can do some of the things that Mario and Juice could do out there. What do you think, John?
I'm not sure that would be the move I would make. I think Amarian may see a few more snaps outside because of what's going on at that slot position because you've got Luke Doty and Eddie Lewis out there, and both of those guys have looked at least pretty good in their moments. I don't know that there would be enough room for him out there as a wide receiver in a general sense. I go back to what I said earlier about Juju and, maybe have some specialty gadget things designed for him and that have him lined up at wide receiver. But I don't see him out there in a traditional sense, at least this year. Now you're going to have some movement at that position this offseason, obviously, and some guys leave, and you got a few young guys who you're not really sure what they're all about. So maybe that's more of an opportunity next season. But right now, I'm not sure that's the move.
Okay. All right, John, we'll let you run on this one. Early peek at the ball game this weekend. Gamecocks 5-point favorites over Mississippi State. The Dogs got throttled in Starkville this weekend by LSU. They do run the football very well. They have the leading rusher in the SEC, and they seemingly are pretty good at stopping the run. But the passing game on both sides, even with Will Rogers, has not been kind to them. This is a huge game for South Carolina. You win it. You kind of get back on track with a lot of options to do more down the road. If you get beat, you hate to think about it.
Yeah, you get beat and you're scrambling a little bit, right? Like the Tennessee the following week, is even more daunting, there. But I didn't get to watch a ton of the Mississippi State LSU game, but it didn't look very good. What I did see certainly didn't look very good. LSU was able to move the ball up and down the field pretty easily and create some big plays. So, Arnett's supposed to be a defensive guy. Like it seems they seem like they're a completely different team than what they were, under Leach, obviously. So they're probably still trying to find themselves a little bit. And, it might be a good thing that South Carolina has them early in the season. So, it'll be their first road game this year, this coming weekend. They've played some tough competition, so I don't think that they're going to be overwhelmed by the side of playing South Carolina. They just played LSU, they played Arizona, but it will be their first road experience after playing their first three at Davis Wade. And I think South Carolina should be able to, as long as they play well, go out and win this Saturday. But it'll be the 4 games into a 12-game season this weekend. I think we'll have a really good glimpse of what this South Carolina team is after this weekend.
Yeah, I think the scary thing is Jaquavius Marks, 8 carries, 75 yards against LSU. They still average
he runs it well.
Carry. Yeah, and
he's good.
And I sort of knew this was going to happen, but you take Will Rogers out of an air raid offense, and it's a little bit different story. And so what I think they're going to do is line up and try to just run it over Carolina and keep the ball out of the hands of Spencer Rattler, because Mississippi State's pass defense is abysmal. They're decent against the run statistically. If Arizona had not thrown 4 interceptions in that ball game, the Wildcats would have won in Starkville. And Whittle's right, though. They've played 2 straight Power 5 opponents. They're a little battle tested, as are the Gamecocks. And North Carolina, I don't know if anybody knows this, the Tar Heels are 3-0, and they shut Minnesota down pretty good. And so that's going to be the thing. South Carolina has not lost to Mississippi State in 25 years at Williams-Brice Stadium. It's 1998.
Remember that game?
Mississippi State, noon kickoff. I got up with a level 9 hangover. 9 is at a scale of 10. That's bad. I needed to hit the V8 and vodka in the morning. Got up. My buddy comes over. He's like, game. Next thing you know, Mississippi State returns the opening kickoff 100 yards. It's 100 degrees in Columbia. Brad Scott has them out in all black uniforms. 38-0 debacle shutout. And that was the year State won the division, the West. So it's been a while since they've come into Williams-Brice and gotten a win. And it's at night and all that. I like the matchup for Carolina's offense against their pass defense, but I would be concerned about the run defense. I mean, Carolina's really got to play like they kind of did in the first half against Georgia. Man up and don't let them run it down your throat, especially at home. And I think Carolina will win. I'm sorry, I just want to monologue there.
Good time for TJ Sanders to kind of maybe break through as the difference maker up front that they certainly need. After this state game, by the way, the Cox will travel for 3 of the next 4 games. So very important ball game under the lights of Williams-Brice. John, we'll let you run on that note. Looking forward to reading all about it, as we always do, as the week moves along until we get to Saturday once again. Thanks for everything you do, my man.
Yeah, appreciate it. Be sure you get the Chief app.
Oh, yeah.
Checks in the mail, John. Well done. Well done.
Thanks, John.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The great John Whittle with the BigSpur.com. All right, it's 11:55 on this Monday, September the 18th. We'll talk ball with the great Pat DeMarco up next, right here on Inside the Gamecocks, this show live from the Sinorama Studios.
Chicken cock originated in Kentucky, like so many other bourbons. And so the resurrection of it, Paris, Kentucky, that's the county seat of Bourbon County. So much of this whiskey was being made in that Bourbon County, put on ships and barges and shipped down Ohio, down to Mississippi, and got to New Orleans, where it got distributed all over the world. And people kept saying, well, hey, I want some more of that whiskey from Bourbon County. And so that's how bourbon whiskey got its name. And chicken cock originated actually in Paris, Kentucky, which is today Bourbon County.
If you're in the upstate of South Carolina and are in need of residential real estate services, Cindy Bass Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane is for you. Ask her about the village at Creekside, all of her listings in my hometown of Spartanburg, South Carolina, right there on Daniel Morgan Avenue, married to a lifelong Gamecock fan. And many of our listeners have already bought homes from her and been 100% satisfied with the detail and care she uses. Cindy Searfoss, 864-414-5271, Caldwell Banker Kane in the upstate for your real estate needs.
Building your dream home is often just that, a dream, and sometimes a nightmare. But at the Barndo Company, they commit to quality and build without sacrifice. Customization, open floor plans, limitless flooring options, maintenance-free and easy installation perks, and affordability are just a few reasons why they've been named one of the best builders in the U.S. Believe in your dreams. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com. The Barndo Company. Gamecock owned, Gamecock operated.
Hey everybody, this is Mo Copper from Carolina Football. The show is painted garden and black every day by a couple of painters. Go to letmepaintsomething.com to check them out. Go Cox.
10% off for military repeat customers or mention the show. Interior, exterior painting, fencing, cabinet staining, concrete painting, popcorn ceiling removal, and more. 803-522-6832. LetMePaintSomething.com. The preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics is Signorama Columbia, and they should be yours too. A full-service sign company that handles design, production, install, and service, Signorama Columbia has helped to bring to life the perfect vision for so many all across South Carolina. Owned and operated by proud Gamecock alumni, they can handle all types of signage, including interior and exterior, vehicle graphics, and more. Go to Signorama.com and find the West Columbia location, or call them at 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signorama Columbia, and go Gamecocks!
Just as your State Farm agent combines good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates, you can combine your home, auto, life, or small business insurance with Tony Pope State Farm Insurance today. And guess what you'll get? That's right, even more good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates. In fact, Tony Pope State Farm is your go-to agent anywhere in South Carolina, North Carolina, or Georgia for the service you deserve at the price you want. So try combining your home, life, auto, and or small business insurance today. Tony Pope State Farm has been in business for more than 30 years and can handle anything you need in the tri-state area. Once again, Tony Pope State Farm will help you mix and match perfectly. Call 843-851-2222 or visit TonyPope.com today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Nana's Porch, nanasporch.com. At Nana's Porch, they cater weddings, parties, and all kinds of special events. Their meals are served buffet style. In seconds, they're encouraged. Plus, they can bring their mobile food unit to bring on-site and serve your guests as a unique alternative for your catering needs. Inquire about rentals as well. nanasporch.com. Find them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. 336-259-7550.
If you're on Medicare currently or approaching eligibility, it's time to enroll in a Medicare plan that meets your needs. Palmetto Medicare is here to help you through the process. Palmetto Medicare's owner, Brian Spencer, and his team of experts are here to assist you. Learn about the benefits and enroll in a plan that will cover as many of your medical costs as possible. Some of the advantages of Medicare health plans may include a variety of plan choices, increased benefits, lower premiums, and more. Give Palmetto Medicare a call to discuss your insurance and help get the exact coverage for your needs today.
Hey folks, it's JB, and as we all know, it's football season. My favorite place to shop for myself and the family is Gamecock Traditions in Lexington. They have the widest selection of Gamecocks attire, plus all the cool accessories for tailgating, cooking, kids, shoes, hats, and so much more. Most importantly for me, you can order online at GamecockTraditions.com, and it's shipped timely to your door. I've been shopping here for years, and I hope you will too. Order online right now on the Chief Sports app. Go Gamecocks.
It's time for Talkin Ball with Pat DiMarco on Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Part of the Chief Sports Network.
12 o'clock, hour 2, Monday, September the 18th. Inside the Gamecocks, the show served by Chicken Cock Whiskey and powered by our friends at Electric Bikes of Charleston, electricbikescharleston.com. The real talent has finally arrived. The great Pat DiMarco joining us for his weekly Talkin Ball segment. What's up, man?
What's going on, guys? Always great being here on Monday with you guys.
Well, we're always happy to talk to you because we learn something every time, and that's what this segment is for. But first of all, I want to get your general thoughts on the ball game this weekend.
I mean, you go down to Athens, play the number 1 team in the country, and you scare the crap out of them for the first quarter. I'm super proud of how we came out and played hard. Losing juice early on definitely didn't help, but I was proud to see how they competed and overcame some adversity. Got a lot of people involved in the game. And Spencer Rattler is still playing at an extremely high level. I know he had 2 late turnovers, which kind of put a damper in how well he's been playing. But golly, that guy, if he keeps playing like that, you have a chance to win every single football game. So it's, you hate losing to an SEC opponent, especially a rival. But I think there's some good stuff to be encouraged by. Some of the young guys out there playing. The offensive line looked a heck of a lot better. Still a ways to go in the run game. That has to show up. It's a long season if not. Defense hold them to 24 points, really make them earn their points too. They got down there in the red zone twice pretty easily. Held them to field goals. They missed 2 of them. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to go over here, but I was encouraged by how we competed.
Yeah, let's start on offense. You didn't play offensive line, but you were a freshman at one point in time.
I basically was an offensive lineman. I was an athletic center that got to play 5 yards behind him.
That's true. That's true. When you're a freshman in this league, it's hard. When you're a freshman in this league, getting your first start on the road, it's harder. When you're a freshman in this league, getting your first start on the road as a left tackle against one of the best defensive lines in college football, holy smokes. And Big Tree was something to watch on Saturday.
He answered the bell, man. He answered the bell, and there's so much growth in that. that kid's obviously talent level is out of the charts. That's why we recruited him so heavily, and we're thankful to have him on our team. But, that's just kind of that's the surface of how good that kid can be, going in there kind of with the mindset of just, I'm going to go in there and compete. I'm going to give it the best I got. And to what he grade out 90 or something. I saw him, was it PFF grading him at 90% or whatever the 90 score is, but he earned freshman honors and against a top tier Georgia defensive line. And that goes to show you, but that's just like kind of the stepping stool of what his growth can be like, to be able to do that early on, and that magnitude of a game. Like I said, it was very encouraging.
Yeah, it was spectacular. We've got a feeling you're going to see more Trevon Ball this week too, so you'll have a pair of freshmen probably out there on the offensive line. On the flip side, though, the defensive line, TJ Sanders has arrived. Pat, what makes a great defensive tackle, and what'd you see out of him?
You got to have a little shit in your neck. You have to have a little bit of a dickhead mentality. And TJ has that. When I was coaching there 2 years ago, TJ was on the scout team, defensive line, and about every practice, the offensive line wanted to kill him. He just didn't care. He had one speed, high motor, wasn't going to back down from anything. And obviously, you're seeing it show up. The kid's just so athletic and so physical. He has athletic traits, just like Tonka Hemingway does, where he can play inside, outside. I mean, you can play him at 3, you can play him in nose, you can play him in a 4-eye shoot, you can even kick him to the edge at times if you need to. I think when he's most effective was when he is moving and using that athleticism that he has. I mean, I remember when I was helping coach the upbacks on kickoff return the last 2 years, like we'd have the big guys, the upbacks, setting the wall, but who knows when they're going to kick a mortar or squib kick. So we had those guys getting used to having the ball in their hands. And I'm like, TJ, do you want to lose like 200, not 200, but you want to lose about 75 pounds and come play tailback for us? Like just natural instincts with the ball in his hands, great hand-eye coordination. He's just a superb athlete and a big boy body. So I was not surprised, especially given that he was going against Javon Gwynn and Eric Douglas and these guys that had shots in the NFL, and he was giving them fits Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever day we put pads on, he was out there competing. And it's coming to fruition and it's showing. Super proud of that kid. And he has leadership quality. Like as a freshman, he had the motor, but he also like backed it up and was not willing to, like if somebody was calling him out, he would call them right back out. So I think that's stuff that you need, just accountability.
The level behind him, Pat, the linebacking core is remarkably, honestly, improved from what it was last year. You have sang the praises of Debo Williams on our program for well over a month, and he's the second leading tackler in the SEC right now after 3 games. So describe his level of play, and then Stone Blanton, a guy who I think has improved greatly. I mean, there's certainly still a couple of things that he needs to work on, Pat, but overall, I mean, his first year starting as a middle linebacker in this league, I mean, through 3 games, I'd call it a success. How would you describe his play?
100%. I mean, I think Stone is doing a good job of making plays when plays are right in front of him, getting people lined up, playing smart football, playing within the play. I don't think he's trying to do too much. I mean, he is playing downhill. He's playing a box linebacker position, which is what's asked of him. I mean, Debo Williams is flying around all over the field. I mean, I remember the last 2 years, like he was a box linebacker. He was tackle to tackle, watch out. He's a meteor coming downhill trying to blow everything up. But now you've seen he's getting a little more wiggle, a little more savviness, disengaging on blocks, slipping blocks, taking good angles to the football. I mean, I remember talking to him last year, and he's just a student of the game. I think he's kind of taken Clayton White's coaching to another level. He's pushed himself and wanted to grow from. I remember last year we were talking about like who he likes watching in the NFL. I like making tapes for the guys to watch at the next level so they can see what these guys do in an off season, see if you can implement something that you're not really good at, that those guys are really good at, and try it in spring ball, try it in fall camp, see if you can add different weapons to your game. And he kept talking about Fred Warner. And I'm like, Fred Warner, dude, he's like 6'3", 210. He's like a safety playing linebacker. And Debo's like, yeah, but I love it. I love how he plays. He's a headhunter. He's in the middle of the field. He always shows up. And I'm like, that's interesting. And I don't see you as that type of player, but I mean, keep watching it, see if you can pull a few things. And what I see kind of correlation in his game is like he's starting to understand space on ball, where the blocker is, kind of alignments, and he's athletic enough to slip or dip and get outside. So he's getting really good at taking those angles that give him shots at getting to the ball carrier. And I mean, I'm going to take a wild guess, but he probably has 5 or 6 tackles for loss at the linebacker position this year, which has got to be way up there, given that you're playing 5 or 6 yards behind the sticks and you're able to get back there and cause disruption.
Yeah, he's let's see here. He's already up to 29 total on the season, and I need to pull the tackles for a loss, but I know it's up there. But I mean, he had 3 alone again in the Georgia game? No, he had 2.
I think it was just 2. I mean, he had 2 opening week again. I mean, I want to say he had 2 a game, which is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, he's been a staple. The Juice Wells injury, Pat, and we'll get to some video here in a minute and kind of let you walk us through. One of those, of course, is the touchdown that Juice took. Maybe got away with a little bit of a hold out there, but it was a touchdown.
Hey, as long as it's not called, man. I held probably 75% of plays. I only got called on about 5 of them. Thank goodness.
See, if you know how to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, but that the first catch he made, and then that one there, I'm not sure, if there's anybody else on the team that catches that ball and turns it into a touchdown like he can. And you saw the impact he can immediately have. Two things. One, with the ball, when he's got the ball in his hands. The other is when he's on the field, you got to pay attention to him. You don't have any choice. And now he's going to be out probably for a little while. I know Shane said he'd like to see if he can get him back by the end of the year, but the foreseeable future is not going to probably have Juice Wells in it. So, Omega Blake stepped in the other day and played really well. They're different receivers though, Pat. So kind of you tell us what you see in Omega Blake and what he's kind of developing into and what type of role he might take on now that Juice is going to be down, at least for the future.
Yeah, I mean, you lose a Juice Wells, and that just stinks. All-American SEC honors going into season, the year he had last year, the competitor that he is, what he does with the ball and without the ball in his hands, like he doesn't take plays off, and that's why every single play you kind of got to hold your breath as a defensive coach or player line up against him. Now, Omega Blake brings a different skill set to the table. I mean, Omega. This is probably a bold statement, but Omega has some of the best ball skills I had seen at Carolina since Alshon Jeffrey. Like really good at going up and getting the ball, getting his body in a really good position to. Kind of like some of the plays we watched with X, just getting yourself in a dominant position. I mean, Omega was doing that, I think, the very first day of practice. Like he just finds a way to get in a position to make the play, goes up and gets it. In a different body frame, not as big as Juice, not as physical as Juice, but from a route runner technician of the game, like he kind of has the wiggle and understands how to attack leverage to make defenders move, to give himself a soft spot. So, two different skill sets. Dow's coached a lot of different type of players, a lot of different personalities. So he's going to be like, it's definitely not going to be a plug and play. Omega's not Juice, but I think Coach Loggins and staff will find a way. Omega's a darn good football player who we're glad to have here in Garnet and Black. So he's going to come up and make some big plays for us. I remember talking with Devontae Holloman, who coached him in high school. When he was on staff last year, and he's like, Omega can go. Devontae played a couple years in the NFL, played at high caliber SEC level here at South Carolina. Like he knows it, and we both saw it. So Omega's going to make some good plays out there for us. Eddie Lewis came in and played. I think the role of a Luke Doty expands. I think the role of a DK Joyner, maybe playing a little more receiver or running back, kind of jack of all trades, that expands. Losing Juice hurts, but that's why Coach Beamer's recruited the way he's recruited, so he can, you don't miss too much. You're able to plug and play and get those guys to come play at a high level for you. All right. So you just went down a road I was kind of hoping you would, and that's with the carry on. Like tunnel vision through this. We just speak to each other in the mind.
Yeah. Which, by the way, before I lose my train of thought, you mentioned Devontae, and I had no idea until Michael told me this weekend that Logan Hall was calling the plays for him out there at Pinewood. So that's pretty cool. I had no clue. Logan. Yep. Yeah. Logan and Molly are outstanding. Of course, Molly is. She, Wando gal. I'm going to screw you up your train of thought, but Molly introduced Kirsten and I. So Molly's the whole reason I'm married with 4 beautiful kids. So, Molly Hall, thank you if you're listening out there. Or I always call her Molly Stanton because that was her name.
I know,
Molly
it's weird.
But yeah, no, so congratulations to those guys and what they're doing. Pinewood got turned around real quick. Devontae's, man, he's sharp as a tack.
He's
a dude. Yep, no doubt. So all right, so we talk about the running backs here, and like, look, most people just, anytime the conversation comes up, JC and I were kind of laughing about this yesterday. It's, it goes back to all the things that we already know, and of course, want to fire coaches and this, that, and the other, and that's all fine and dandy, but that's not going to solve any problems right now. And so they have what looks to me, Pat, and this is just my eyes, and I'm throwing it over to you to let you correct me and kind of take it from there. It seems like they have 4 running backs that are that are better than each other at a different skill set.
Yeah.
And like, I think personally, DeCarrion, he is a guy who, when he gets close to the end zone, he can find it.
Yeah.
I think the best, just based on what I've seen, Pat, we're not in practice, so I don't know, but watching natural running backs out there, Mario Anderson seems to be the most natural running back on the team. That includes just how he runs, but also the fact that he's been doing it in college for 4 years already. The young kid, DJ Braswell, maybe the most talented, but you've only seen a little bit, but just a young kid, very quick. And then you've got Juju, who you can kind of do a lot of different stuff with, but he's not an every down back, at least in the SEC. So what you just mentioned a minute ago is very interesting because, Juju, DeCarrion Joyner, they're both guys who you can use in different roles, not just as a traditional running back, but, Anderson seems like kind of your more traditional style running back. So I guess my question to you is, could you in some way, shape, or form envision this offense evolving with 2 or 3 of those guys on the field at the same time in different roles, allowing you to play a guy like DeCarrion who's good with the ball in his hands, and then also play Mario Anderson because he probably deserves some more carries at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's packages. I don't think it's a 30 play, 40 play, 2 running back sets out there, but I definitely think that there's racks of plays you can get into where you have those guys and can get in the flow. I agree. I think Mario has just really good instincts and tempo. I don't see him taking 175 yards to the house. I think Braswell does have that skill set and that top end speed. I think Juju's a heck of a football player. He's a little undersized, but whenever we've called his number, he's answered the call. I think you got bodies. I just think the running back position, it's a lot about getting in a feel and kind of getting confidence. And, they haven't had that yet. They haven't had a drive where they've been able to just shove it down somebody's throat. And I used to, when we were playing, we would get late into third quarter, beginning of fourth quarter, and we're up 2 scores. Like, I'm running up to Devontae Freeman or Tevin Coleman or LaShawn McCoy or whoever the primary back was that I was blocking for, and I'd smack him on the shoulders and I'd be like, "Hey, let's ride. This game's on your shoulders. Let's go. Take this thing over." We just haven't had anybody. We haven't had the chance to let those guys answer the call yet. But I think Juju, Mario, DK, I think we have the talent in that room. I just think you might have to get a little more creative and let those guys get 5-6 plays, get confidence, sustain drives, so they can really get in that feel. Devontae used to get frustrated. We shared 2 backs. Tevin Coleman was a stud. Devontae Freeman was a stud, but they both wanted a 12-play drive. It's tough. Like, Devontae get 3 plays, he'd gain 26 yards, and then he'd come out to get a blow, and he's like, no, keep me in here. But he keep fresh legs. But, that's just that competitor mindset. And I think all 4 of those guys are so competitive that whatever we ask of them, they're going to do. They're going to do whatever it takes to help the Gamecocks win. So whether that's Juju playing F receiver, if that's DK playing F receiver, if that's having 2 in the backfield, if that's, DK taking a dive back at fullback, like, those guys are Gamecocks, and they're going to compete and do whatever it's asked of them. There probably is some creative stuff that you might see with the Juice Wells down to get your best players on the field. I definitely think there is more in that room, though. I think we're averaging just under 2 yards a carry over the course of the season, and that ain't going to cut it in big-time SEC play. So that room does have to bring some more weight, and that's not just on that position. There's 11 guys on the field that make those runs pop. So that's everybody playing their tail off every single play, because who knows that one play that might catch the corner and take it to the house and really differentiate the game.
Pat, we've got some video we want to get to here. 4 plays from the weekend in the Georgia game, and some good and certainly some bad. We'll start off here. The first play that we're going to get you to kind of diagnose for us is the touchdown pass from Spencer Rattler to Juice Wells in the first quarter. And I mentioned it just a minute ago. Juice, of course, kind of re-injures his foot. Not same injury necessarily, but maybe caused by the old injury. But he scores here. So walk us through what you saw in this play and giving South Carolina that 7-0 lead.
Yeah, I mean, tape's a little choppy looking at it, but what you see is like, you have kind of a double screen. You have a bubble screen coming to DK where you it's more eye candy than anything, but you're just trying to get flow of backs and take their attention off the boundary side. So, yeah, I mean, Trey Knox is the first one out there, and his job is, hey, I have widest or MDM. And he kind of gets caught in between, but he holds up the first guy, and he's able to get up the corner. And then big number 77, his job is to go out and trap the number. So he's running flat down the line of scrimmage, and whatever shows up, go kick it out right at the numbers. And sure enough, he does that. Vershawn comes out, and his job is MDM at the point of attack. If it's clean, I'm working the alley. And you see him peek outside. They're relatively clean out there. There's 2 for 2. So he works up to the safety. But then, I mean, like Juice's job is to press that outside guy. Those guys keep contained and then get inside. And then he's just reading the alley defender. So that's Vershawn's block. And I mean, the rest is it. I mean, you really don't like cutting that ball all the way back across field because there's an NFL game. I think it was yesterday afternoon where kind of the receiver cut back, and I think it was Nick Chubb came back trailing, and we used to call them the Sharks, retracing and making plays. So I mean, when you start cutting across dead back across the grain, you got 320-pound jokers that are trying to kill you in trail mode. But Juice is able to outrun them, and then you have Doty come in there and clean up the block and seal it for a big touchdown there. But I mean, it was about a 6-minute drive, 10 plays, firing all cylinders. That's just a confidence drive, and that's something that, like, when the Gamecocks get rolling, if we have 2 or 3 successful plays, it generally ends up in 7. So far with Dow calling the play, so kind of slowly continue to build that confidence up. But I mean, that's like that's going to be missed, right? Juice making that big play. It was similar to the play against Kentucky last year. We cut the bowl screen. He went in, saw color inside, and he got back out, and he ran away from everybody and scored and sealed that game. So, that's a play that, I mean, it's a great play call there in the high red, and Juice made a big play for us.
TJ Sanders had a great game this weekend as well. A couple of plays here, really actually early in the game, not long after Juice scored, but you see TJ bust through and make a big play.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because I think it was in spring ball, he played 5 technique. He was playing like boundary defensive end. And here you see him lined up. He's playing shade. So it just goes to his versatility and what he can do. And I know talking with Travian, this was even from last year after we played, or 2 years ago when he was at Georgia State, I would ask him, like, hey, man, your defensive line's undersized. Like, how do you get them playing at such a high level playing against? I mean, I think they should have beat Auburn. They should have beat UNC. Like, how do you get these guys that are undersized playing at such a high level? And it's because of movement. And that's stuff that, when I was at Carolina with Brad Lawing, that's stuff that Coach Lawing did. He's like, I don't want my guys stationary, man. These defensive tackles are some of the best athletes compared to the big lugs up front on the offensive line. Let's make those big guys move. So you just see, TJ's really good when he's moving around, using his hands. Here on the sack, he makes his first move, tries to counter, gets stuck. And then when you get stuck, it's, hey, push the pocket, run my guy into the quarterback. And Stone comes in there and kind of makes the quarterback flee, and TJ gets his hands on him. So, TJ's a stud. He's about all the right stuff. He's competitive. He's a South Carolina boy. Went to Marion, from Marion. So, I'm glad to see him playing at a high level. But goes back to talking about Brad Lawing, former Gamecock coach, rest in peace, coach. But just what he meant to Travian Robertson and what he meant to this program, and a lot of guys that played for him. That just goes to show his legacy living on. And that's, Trevi did a great job speaking at his funeral, and you could just tell how much Coach Long meant to him. And here you go, like you're seeing a lot of traits of Brad Long's defensive line showing up on the biggest stage against Georgia.
Yeah, that's a standing point, by the way, and you hope that you got plenty of Brad Long influence around here for a long time.
Yeah.
Up front with these defensive linemen with Travian, I have no doubt that'll be the case as you just described. To open the second half here, it was a struggle. Georgia comes down the field and scores. Carolina needed a response if they could get one. You get the kickoff. Leggett brings it out. You get some penalties and stuff. So what happens here, Pat? Rattler immediately gets pressured, has nowhere to go.
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting play right here. I mean, I'd love to see kind of more of the concepts up top. I mean, you guys got to get the back end. That was my baby when I used to watch tape, was the back end. But here you have, I mean, you're in a run action 7 or 8 man pro. Looks like both tied in. I guess Trey Knox is free releasing. So you're in a 7 man pro, Josh Simon on the backside, but you got run action and they rush 4. Yeah, you see 6 bodies right there, but Josh Simon stays in. Number
go back, Phil. See if you can rewind that.
32 is he has Josh Simon man to man. They bring the Mike linebacker, but 13, the left side or right side defensive end, he's dropping down. He has DK man to man. And then number 3, the backside corner, he's kind of the lurk rat player. So yeah, you see 6 Georgia defenders, but Josh Simon stays and pass protects. So 32 kind of sits there, hangs out and adds or makes sure Josh doesn't leak out late. But number 13, the backside defensive end, has DK. And they're running looks like a one back power action. And Nick Gargiulio goes and pulls for the widest rusher, who's looks like a nickel or backer blitzing off the edge. And he gets edged. So DK kind of has to abort his interior fake and help out wide on the defensive on the widest rusher. And number 13, who has DK man-to-man in coverage, he adds. I mean, that's man coverage 101 for linebackers or defensive ends. Those guys don't want to cover running backs 101 in man coverage. I would put a lot of money against a hand in the ground defensive end man-to-man coverage. So those guys are told, if my guy blocks or he's slow getting out, I'm going to add and make him protect me. I don't want to cover him. I want him to have to block me. So DK has to help on the widest defensive end. 13 triggers and adds, and he kind of gets in Spencer's face. So, it stinks because given what Spencer's done with the ball in his hands, when he's able to create with his feet, with his arm, they rush 4. I know it looks like 6, but they're really only rushing 4. It's kind of a simulator. It's a simulated pressure. So they're bringing people, but they're dropping people too. That was stuff that we struggled with last year. Was a lot of 4-man rush, but simulator. So you're simulating a blitz, but you're only bringing 4. And you kind of, you just have 1 or 2 linemen kind of standing there like, my guy dropped. Where am I going? Am I in? Am I out? So that just gave us fits, and it was unfortunate, being backed up there. 3rd and 15 at your own 5 or 6 yard line. Not very good things happen in those cases, but that's something they're going to have to coach, because I would imagine, giving it, we struggled with it last year, and then Georgia showed it on tape too. It's going to be something we're going to see a little more often. So I'm sure Lonnie and Coach Ad and Dow and Coach Beamer and all those guys are going to start finding ways to clean that stuff up, because if DK releases to the line of scrimmage, if Nick doesn't get edged, at the way Spencer's playing, man, he's going to find a way to make a play there if there's not a rush right in his face.
Speaking of Spencer, this is his first interception, and this is towards the end of the game when the Georgia was kind of just releasing the hounds. Just go get him. Coach Muschamp pretty much turned him loose. Gets on his back foot here. What do you see out of him that could maybe be cleaned up on his end? As great as he's been, he does drift a little bit on these last couple of picks.
Yeah, it's the situation, it's 3rd and 20, 4 minutes to go. Not ideal.
Rushing 4.
So he's sitting there and he's thinking, I got to make a play. So he probably stressed him a little bit here, probably trying to do a little too much. But I wouldn't rather have the ball in anybody else's hands besides number 7. Just like Coach Beamer and Dow, they had full faith in him. This is a simple 4-man rush, a little TT game inside. We have 3 for 2. So 55, 53, 69 have those 2 interior rushers, and they're just late to pass it off, and the communication isn't great. And pressure in his face. Yeah, he's drifting. Throws the ball off his back foot. It looks like a post wheel concept, number one. So I think it's Omega's running a post to clear out the safety, and then Eddie's running a wheel out the backside, trying to get a little rub. And I don't know. Like I said, we couldn't see it from the back end, so you don't know. I think number 13 or 17? The safety is the one who made the interception. I don't know if Omega wasn't able to carry him and cover his eyes. One-on-one real route, Eddie Lewis against the nickel. That's not a bad pass. But the safety was able to get over the top there and make a play on the ball. So, it's just, it's one of those. If you're not in 3rd and 20, you take 4 or 5 yards and you play 4th and 4, 4th and 5. 3rd and 20, you kind of a little more pressure, a little more antsy. I got to make a play. I got to make this right now. Spencer's the best player on the field. So he's trying to make a play, and unfortunately, Georgia makes a good play.
Yeah, I guess if there's anything at all that can be in some way, shape, or form criticized with Spencer, it's things that they have actually talked about publicly before, is that, sometimes you probably just need to hang in there and try to step in and make – because, Pat, if you could describe it real quick, we'll let you run. I'm not picking on Spencer Rattler, by the way, just so everybody understands this. I don't know if anybody out there is a bigger fan of him than I am, but – when you're a quarterback, if you're drifting and you've got wide receivers trying to get open, 3rd and 20, whatever it may be, obviously if you're drifting, there's some type of chaotic play going on here. You really generally are only leaving receivers 1 or 2 things that they can do to kind of help you. But if you're able to find a way to step into it, guys can come back, they can take off downfield, they can stay on their routes. There's a lot of different stuff that can happen if you're not just kind of fading off and trying to get rid of the football.
Yeah, I think he was more trying to force it than. Spencer's arm talent is probably unlike most college football players. That's why every NFL scout's come in the building and asked everybody about him because he has such an elite arm talent. But yeah, when you can't drive off your back foot and really rip it, but pressure in your face, he is kind of drifting away, like 3rd and 20, like. What would every fan say if he completed a 3-yard pass there and it's 4th and 17?
Right, exactly.
Why would he just attack the sticks, right? Like it's, it's very easy to speak out of both sides of your mouth and like with the clicker in your hand, like, man, you should have done this. Well, yeah, I had a 295-pounder about to smash my face in.
For the last 2 quarters.
Yeah, so you'd love another shot at converting that on 4th down. But I think Spencer was trying to make a play. I think that goes into the trust that he has in his playmakers to go up and try to make that play, right? Unfortunately, that safety was able to get there before Eddie was able to kind of put the brakes on and go attack the football. I think, we got Mississippi State this week, 7:30 game. They're coming into a hostile Williams-Brice Stadium. Barring no weather delays, Gamecock Park and the Gamecock Walk is going to be probably as wild as it's ever been. Hopefully everybody comes and shows out and shows up. It's going to be a fun game to watch, and I'll be there with my son Weston, my daughter Sutton, and my wife Kirsten. So we'll be in the stands cheering on the Gamecocks, as I know a lot of listeners will be.
Yeah, it's a Mississippi State team that, as JC pointed out earlier, really they're pretty good on the ground, and they've slowed the run down this season, but they have not stopped anybody from throwing the football. So Spencer Rattler is probably really licking his chops to get in there and do what he's been doing through 12 quarters, which is slinging around and make things happen. Carolina trying to get to 2-2. Can't imagine anybody better to do all this with us than our buddy Pat DeMarco here on Mondays. Next Monday, hopefully we got some stuff to go over pertaining to their first conference win of the season.
Yep. That's you got to play good in the SEC, right? That's what gives you a chance. Beating the Furmans in these games, those are a must in this league. You have to go in there and you have to win the tough ones, and some of those are, as the first 2/3 of our schedule is, a lot of those games are on the road. So we have to start playing some good football here, as Coach Beamer said last week, it has to happen really fast and urgently. So I'm looking forward to a bounce back game for the Gamecocks, even though I thought we played a really good 2.5 quarters against the number 1 team in the country.
Yep.
I think we showed the world that they are not that they're human. They're not Georgia of the past, where they're beating everybody by 40, 50 points. So I would imagine everybody at about 5 o'clock when halftime rang, they saw the good guys up 14-3. They were kind of like, shoot, Carolina means business. Now that gives you that there's no moral victories in that. We're still 1-2. We're not 2-1, but it was encouraging to see how hard our guys played and leveled up.
Fantastic, man. Look forward to talking to. I'll talk to you long before next Monday. I'll probably talk to you later on today. But thanks for everything you do.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Go Gamecocks.
There you go. The great Pat DiMarco, over 10 years in the NFL and 4 at South Carolina, and we are happy to have him here on our programming on Monday. Quick note before we hit a timeout: SEC Football Player of the Week awards are out. Co-defensive lineman TJ Sanders from South Carolina. Add that to his resume after his outstanding performance in Athens on Saturday. Hang tight. We are powered by Electric Bikes of Charleston and built by the Barn Dominium Co. inside the Gamecocks. We'll be right back.
Down here in the South, we don't always see eye to eye. While our taste in college football teams, or what sauce, if any, goes best on a rack of ribs, or what to mix with our Dixie vodka might be up for debate, we can all agree there's nothing better than a Southern tailgate. And like our favorite college teams, our ingredients come from small towns and big cities. They're grown in Southern soil, are crafted by Southern hands, and proudly represent the South in our backyard and beyond. So raise a glass of Dixie Southern Vodka to celebrate being made in America and raised in the South.
Welcome home. That's what the Gamecocks say, and so does the Barn Dough Company, where they can build your dream home starting as low as $160 per square foot. If you live in the Carolinas, Georgia, or Tennessee, their turnkey process takes just 4 to 6 months on average and can be custom designed by size and details. Make your dream a reality. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com. The Barn Dough Company, Gamecock, owned and operated.
Hey everybody, this is Mo Copper from Carolina Football. The show is painted garnet black every day by a couple of painters. Go to letmepaintsomething.com to check them out. Go Cox.
10% off for military repeat customers or mention the show. Interior, exterior painting, fencing, cabinet staining, concrete painting, popcorn ceiling removal, and more. 803-522-6832. Letmepaintsomething.com.
Welcome to TravelingCountryClub.com, your modern golf club experience. Hey folks, this is Michael Manus, former Gamecock golfer, inviting you to play more golf with a membership to TravelingCountryClub.com. With over 40 courses across the Carolinas, our membership provides you with an affordable way to enjoy a club-like golf experience. From the mountains to the coast, we offer golf courses that will challenge all types of golfers, no matter your handicap level or level of play. Plus, we offer unique membership benefits not seen anywhere else as part of Traveling Country Club. Tee it up with Traveling Country Club, TravelingCountryClub.com, TravelingCountryClub.com, proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
The preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics is Signorama Columbia, and they should be yours too. A full-service sign company that handles design, production, install, and service, Signorama Columbia has helped to bring to life the perfect vision for so many all across South Carolina. Owned and operated by proud Gamecock alumni, they can handle all types of signage, including interior and exterior, vehicle graphics, and more. Go to Signorama.com and find the West Columbia location, or call them at 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signorama Columbia, and go Gamecocks.
Charleston Fitness Equipment is keeping South Carolina in shape. Clients have come from all over the Palmetto State to find that one piece of equipment that they enjoy that keeps them looking and feeling good. Whether it's a home rower, treadmill, elliptical, free weights, a home gym, or something else, Charleston Fitness Equipment keeps the mirror smiling back at you. Get in shape like the Gamecocks do. Visit charlestonfitnessequipment.com. Gamecock owned and operated and proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Coach O here. And when I'm not eating average jambalaya or celebrating endless summer in Destin, I like to eat pimento cheese straight off the bucket. And the only pimento cheese I like to eat is from Nana's Porch. It's award-winning. It'll melt in your mouth. It's good on a cracker. It's good in a bowl. It's good on a piece of bread. Also, don't forget Nana's Porch has a hell of a food truck. It's award-winning as well, and they're here for all of your catering needs. So get online, nanasporch.com. It's good. Coach O signing off. Endless summer. Go Tiger.
For chicken cock, we get a medium to medium plus toast, the char level. We use a number 3 level char. If you char it too deep, you start burning away some of those flavor components that you just created. If you just char a barrel and you don't toast it, you're going to create some of those flavors just on a thin layer just inside the char, but not the actual depth and full extent of flavors that you're going to get if you toast it properly. All those elements, that's exactly what they do. They boil down to great flavor.
If you're in the real estate market in the Low Country or even in the Midlands, please contact me, JB, with Coast to Coast Realty SC. Go Gamecocks.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is.
The writers' strike, if you had a show that aired on Monday nights on ABC, you might never have a show on Monday night on ABC again in the fall because they're going to be airing Monday Night Football in conjunction with ESPN. And I think maybe the network will realize that their ratings are a lot better with Monday Night Football and that the advertisers are paying a lot more money.
I was wondering what the heck was going on with 2 Monday Night Football games today. I'm like, I mean, I don't know.
Well, I don't think they're going to do that every week. This just happens to be one of those weeks where they have an early game and a late game.
Well, they're only an hour apart. That's what I thought was odd. They're competing against each other. Like one starts at 7 tonight.
Yeah,
starts at like 8:30. Yeah,
that's right. Well, you know what? Hey, look, they might be onto something here, man. You know, the writers, they want their money, so they're gonna whatever.
JC doesn't care just so long as he doesn't have to watch Chicago play.
Dear God. Dear God.
Thanks to Pat.
Yeah, they got the Chiefs next week. Yeah, what a great segment that is. I want to say something because the chat box, Big Spur, Twitter, there's a lot of like, you know, I hate it when people make issues out of things that aren't issues when there's issues. You guys know what I'm saying? Nick Harbor not playing is not the biggest. It's a nothing burger, okay? And he's playing. He played 9 snaps. I was surprised he played 9 snaps.
I was too.
And let me tell you why, okay? He's learning a new position. He's not just a freshman. Somebody's like, well, you play freshman all the time. Blah, blah, blah. Big Tree played. Big Tree's been playing offensive tackle for 4 years, right? You know, in high school. Okay, so let's just tell you like it is. Okay, and you guys are forgetting another big part of it. He didn't get here in the spring. He got here in the summer. He was running track in the spring. So unlike some of these other guys, he didn't have. Even the full summer, he didn't get here until July. He didn't even have summer 1. All right, so there's that. All right. The other part of it is he missed 2.5 weeks of preseason practice with an injured shoulder. So all those valuable reps are out the door. So he's really behind, folks. Just draw up a play for him. Why? So he can, everybody's like, draw up a slant. Oh, sure. Against that bunch, so he can get his head taken completely off. You want to be decapitated?
Let's run an inexperienced
or even worse, he gets those big old long arms up and he gets hit and the ball goes straight up in the air and Lassiter picks it off for a pick six. I mean, look, I'm not all about coaching shit scared. I think there's no excuse for DJ Braswell not being on the field. I mean, I don't get that at all with the situation you're in at running back. But they don't need. I mean, the receiver situation is, is not something that's like urgent, and the kid is playing. So, and Joel says now do Landon Sampson. Landon Sampson didn't get 9 snaps his third year last year. He redshirted the whole year. So, I mean, that's not even that's not that drives me crazy. That stuff. It's just like
I mean, you can only play
not even relevant to the conversation.
I've never understood all this. You can only play so many people. You can only play 11 at a time, right? And there's only 3, maybe 4 wide receivers that play.
And people see Nick and they see his size and they see his freakish athletic ability, and you're like, he is touchdown. He's a touchdown waiting to happen. And look, but you don't understand either. A guy like that's learning a new position, that's early in college, that's an elite athlete, that has missed time, that hasn't been here very long to begin with, and he hadn't been here but for a couple of weeks, and then has missed half the time he's supposed to be developing. For him to get on the field for 9 plays against Georgia is damn good, right? It's damn good, okay? I mean, he's getting there. But it's not some stupid coach malpractice thing like some people are thinking that he didn't get the ball on Saturday. I mean, you have to use common sense at some point about some of these guys, And look, hey, had he been a 5-star whatever and played the position his whole career and then he's not playing, I mean, yeah, they need to get him ready, But, I think 9 snaps was great. I mean, for him, I think with where he's at, and had he not missed all that time, maybe you make a good argument for it. But dude, I mean, let's talk about problems that are actually problems. Don't make stuff up, or don't. I mean, I'm sorry. Think about it. Think about it. Come on, think about it, guys.
We're talking about practice, man.
Yeah, this guy's barely practiced, and he's playing 9 snaps as it is. That's pretty good in the old progress-o-meter. There's like 5 or 6 people in the chat box that swear to God that he should have been placed, like bad that he hadn't played, and blah, 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 blah. So I just don't get it. Now, hey, let's talk about who should be playing. Let's talk about Mario Anderson. That guy. Tyshawn Russell made a case for playing more. If you want to talk about a receiver, I just I get it. I get those 5 stars, make everybody go crazy, and I think Nick Harper's going to be a hell of a player sooner rather than later. But you have to understand that this is. And look, I don't want to hear anything else about Luke Doty either. That's ridiculous. Luke Doty played his ass off. Help them win, helps them make plays. He's not out there like he doesn't belong. And if you look at the snap counts, he played 20 snaps compared to Eddie Lewis's 35. All right, so he started, and Doty's made plays. Why are we inventing problems? Why? There's plenty of problems. Why are we inventing it? Because you don't like Luke Doty? That's your personal preference? That's fine. But there's no evidence that says he's not doing a really good job at slot receiver. He's catching the ball. He's going fast. He's not dropping it. And he played half the time, so where's your gripe? Eddie Lewis was in there 35 snaps compared to Doty's 20. So what's the problem? You know, I mean, let's talk about real problems here. All right.
7 catches for 91 yards through 3 games for Luke Doty. By the way, just announced. Do what?
And a touchdown.
Yeah, and a touchdown. Yeah, and a touchdown.
I think he's more honestly. I think he's more clutch than Amari Brown. Clutch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not at practice every week, but you know.
No, we'll see. You know.
Colorado and Southern Cal on September 30th is the big noon game on Fox.
Is that in Boulder? That's in Boulder, right?
Yeah, I think so. Either way, you know what that means, right? That means that means that they're kicking the game off at 9 a.m.
Oh, 9 a.m. That's a 9 a.m. kickoff. Yeah, I was just sitting here doing the times. Wow.
Boulder's in Mountain Time, guys.
I think Boulder
Denver's Mountain Time.
Denver is Mountain Time.
So
it's the rock. It is Mountain Time. Come on, that John Denver's full of shit, man. Come on.
No, it says
JB is the Rockies.
For the Trojans. Yeah, you're right. So
it says 9 a.m. LA time.
9 a.m.
So they
LA,
host,
but
yeah, so they'll play. They play at Oregon at 12:30 this week. The Buffaloes do, and then they play at 10 a.m. the following week versus Southern Cal. Like that kind of sucks when you've got 2 top 10 matchups coming up, and both of them are 10 a.m. 12:30.
Brett Keggs. JD is saying we need playmakers. Man, hush. Just stop. I mean, playmakers at wide receiver, that's the least of the problems right now. And Eddie Lewis is a transfer bust? Yeah, okay. Come on, man. Yeah, after 3 games, you're going to come up these guys too. I mean, I'm sick of people beating up on players too. I mean, you can be critical without saying ridiculousness. Oh, it's transfer bust. 3 games in, really? He caught 6 passes against Furman.
For this team is crazy. You've lost 2 games to 6-0 is the record of these 2 teams. North Carolina has a legitimate shot to win the ACC for what that's worth. And you just played the number 1 team in the country. So what if Carolina rolls off, I don't know, 8 more wins in a row or wins out? Yeah, I mean, that which is well within the range of outcomes because we saw how everyone played. Mississippi State didn't look good. Tennessee damn sure didn't look good. Clemson's got flaws. Who are you scared of? Like legitimately with the legitimate quarterback?
Probably shouldn't be. Yeah, I mean, there's.
But they all could also beat Carolina except Jacksonville State and Vandy.
I mean, yeah,
you
could lose them all, but it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, hell, I think there's just too many people throwing their hands up after 3 games this year. I mean, my God.
I just don't like the individual player thing. I mean, they didn't have the catches after the first series, so what the hell does that mean? There's a lot of players that, I mean, Eddie Lewis had 1 catch, but it was for 23 yards in a critical situation. A nice little catch, stayed in bounds. I just don't. I mean, you evaluate guys on more than that, And look, if I were, Johnny Sunshine Pumper and sitting here talking about how everybody's playing great and all y'all are crazy, that'd be one thing. But I've told you who's not playing well. I told you the personnel side, and I'm not saying I'm completely right. Maybe you guys disagree, and that's fine. But pulling things out of thin air based on things like recruiting rankings and hype drives me up a wall. Because too many fans at too many schools do it, and you guys are better than that. You're my people. So I get mad at you, or I get mad for you, or mad about the situation. You're my folks. I want you to be better. Be better. Be better. Life ain't no sunshine and rainbows, and you're better than that. That ain't you.
Phil, did you ever add up your picks from Friday?
Oh,
what was your
We're
record?
going to talk about this.
Yeah, well, I went 10-3. Anthony Wright texted me late Saturday night to inform me he was 9-3. And I said, well, shoot, let me look at it. And I looked at it. I texted him back and I said, all right, well, I'm 9-3. And if Colorado wins, I'm 10-3, of course. So Anthony and I both went 10-3.
So did y'all catch my record?
No.
I know that's not what was it, the Fab Five or whatever with Mike. We got to go over tomorrow.
Oh, I did okay in the Fab Five. I got 3 though.
I think Mike was undefeated this week, but
He
I
wasn't.
tell you about that.
4, 5.
That's what he made sure to tell us that on our conference call this morning. 5-0.
Well, he sent me a text about 10 o'clock, and he was like, close to 5-0. And I'm like, I thought he was talking about me. And I was like, yes, because they got a big brain. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he goes, then I start thinking about it. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I lost 2 games earlier, if I remember correctly.
What games did y'all? I picked Tennessee, I picked Arkansas, and I
went 10-3.
You did?
Yeah.
Son of a.
Yeah, I went right up there with A1. All right, I feel good.
You hey, you can't.
One, 2.
You've got JC's.
4, 5.
Yeah, I lost I'd say the ones that I probably picked different from everybody. I got West Virginia right. I think y'all were all on the pit train, weren't you?
No, Phil, I went West Virginia there too. Hey, we all JC went 10-3.
So we all went 10-3.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3. This is great radio. 4. 5,
I took
6.
Missouri. I know Anthony took Kansas State.
Did I take K-State?
Yeah, we all went 10-3.
Dude, I went back and forth on the actual gambling because, so there's no online betting in South Carolina, right? And I'm in Columbia right now, in case you guys didn't notice. By the way, Chamber of Commerce Day in Town, 76, low humidity, slight breeze. So I had to call in my bets to Nat, and I went back and forth, and my gut said Missouri was going to win, but I was like, man, that daggum Kansas State's lost me money before. And I went with K-State like a moron. I'm sitting there thinking it's going to go to overtime. K-State to cover. And then the round mound of kicking hit a 61-yard field goal.
What? I'm confused. What?
Those were the differentiating games for Kansas State, Missouri, the BYU, Arkansas, and Syracuse, Purdue. Those are the ones that really kind of switched the we went back and forth.
I told y'all last week. Y'all laughed at me. You both owe me an apology. I told you that Florida State game was going to be closer than everybody thought it would. You owe me an apology, both of you. You mad dog? You too, Schubert.
I'm sorry, JB.
What are you talking about? Every time they go up there, game's close. Thank you. I accept it gladly.
I wasn't laughing because my buddy coaches at Florida State, and I think a lot of Gamecock fans were like, oh, my God, Florida State's going to lose to Clemson, which they could. By the way, Saturday night, there's some serious games on, in addition to South Carolina.
Yeah.
That may mean
a lot
JC.
of DVRing this weekend.
JC may be staying in the condo and not going into the game Saturday night. I don't have a ticket anyway, so I may just go for the festivities.
Well, if you are going to the game on Saturday night, you need to make sure you're well dressed. Could be rain again this weekend. All of that is available at GamecockTraditions.com or go into the store in West Columbia. They've got the widest selection of Gamecock gear in the entire state of South Carolina. Yep. There's nobody that does it better. And they'll ship it to your doorstep. So really appreciate Scott Satterfield and Kevin Lucas and everybody over there for what they do for the University of South Carolina's fan base and providing us with some outstanding stuff to wear and use and have fun with.
JDiz, don't comment in the chat box anymore. Just please. Let's keep running 3 quarterbacks out on offense. What the hell are you even talking about?
What is that?
Joyner's former quarter. I mean, all right, so Xavier Legette was a high school quarterback.
By the way, breaking news here, South Carolina and Tennessee will kick off at 7:30 on the SEC network.
You knew that was going to happen. Yeah, I saw that.
Well, that's awesome because we got a cookout going at the lake house on that Saturday, Phil. So that's I was hoping for a night game.
I was hoping for a day game.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to kick off on that one.
please learn something about Carolina's offensive personnel before you comment further.
3.
And I mean that's another nothing burger. Some idiots are out there on Twitter talking about why are they playing these 3 quarterbacks? That's inexcusable. It's nothing to do with it. Player's either good or he's not. It doesn't matter what position you used to play. I used to be a defensive end. I used to be a high school sports writer. Not anymore. Right? It doesn't matter what the hell you used to be. It's what you are now, and how good are you? And one of the former quarterbacks is doing just fine, given his stats and performance. And if you know whatever you're looking at when you look at a football player, you know he's doing just fine. And then the other guy, maybe a change of pace back out there in addition to him. But it's not like he's terrible, especially in the red zone.
I was going to say, for all his faults in the red zone, he finds the damn end zone, doesn't he?
All right, let's get out of here. We'll see y'all tomorrow at 11 on Inside the Game.
Shut here.